Hey, everybody, it is Nathan Selove with another episode of You Might Be Autistic If, the show where we take audience submitted statements about various different activities, behaviors, or overall ways of thinking that you might be autistic if you relate to. With me is my father, Raymond Selove. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Dad.
Hello.
Another thing to keep in mind is that just because you relate to some of these doesn't mean that you are autistic. Just because you don't relate to some of these doesn't mean that you aren't autistic. You met one autistic, you met one autistic. And the point of these is to laugh at ourselves, have some fun. None of it's intended to be mean-spirited or insulting towards those of us on the autism spectrum. So hopefully you will, find some things that you will laugh at, and maybe some things that you'll find some community with. So without further ado, Dad, you ready to get started?
Sure. Shall I begin?
Go for it.
So this one's from Oriole JB 9774. You might be autistic if you obsessively watch videos that you have already seen, but gain nothing from rewatching for the 338th time. 338, huh?
And you counted.
Oddly specific.
You might be autistic if you count. So I definitely do that. Like there's this video game review YouTube channel that I just really like going back and watching the reviews over and over again. I know all the jokes, so like I don't necessarily laugh at it. I just enjoy them. I just think that they're fun. And hopefully, for those of you that might be watching, maybe there's a certain autistic YouTuber that you like to rewatch over and over
again. Sure. Who would that be?
I don't know. Do you do that, Dad?
So I was about to say that I don't do that, and then I started thinking more about you and how many times you would watch Land Before Time or
Star Wars.
There Goes a Bulldozer. A lot of this happens when we're young.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I did not rewatch YouTube videos ever.
That's because YouTube wasn't a thing, Dad.
Well, okay, that's true. and I probably would have if it were a thing. Instead, what we had were these discs made out of vinyl that had a little groove in them. And when you ran a needle through that groove, it would produce sounds, recordings. And I remember as a toddler, I was maybe 3 years old, and I still remember this extremely well.
Of course you do.
I listened to Peter Pan, a musical, over and over and over and over. It drove my mother crazy. I still know all the songs to it. Turn left at the second star. And for me, it's more often music.
Yeah.
Music comes back to me.
Yeah. No, because what's
we
interesting
also,
is,
as a family, we also did it a lot with movies. So Star Wars,
yeah.
but also Monty Python.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So like, I remember how like your uh one of the things that you and Mom did a lot was anytime someone would say something that was from a song lyric, you would start like singing the song, or you would quote song lyrics to each other all the time. Jess and I do that, but with movie quotations. Like I often joke that we have a debilitating disorder that means that we can only communicate using movie references. And like I have her, like she has me quoting movies that I've never seen, but she just quotes them all the time. And I have her doing that. Like I have her the YouTube videos that I had mentioned earlier that I often that I watch way too many times. They're like specific lines in these obscure YouTube videos that I sometimes say, and I now have Jess saying.
And she's never seen the video.
And she's never seen the video.
Well, so actually, I think this has happened sometimes with our movie quotes, because we use a lot of movie quotes from Dodgeball and Rat Race,
Oh yeah.
and all of the Monty Python
Oh
movies.
God, yes.
Um, there was another one that came up recently, but it's it becomes so common in the family that some people who haven't seen those
Yeah.
are just so used to it that they use them too. Probably don't fully appreciate them the way the rest of us do. How
All
many
right.
times do you think we watched Rat Race?
Oh, so many times. I love that movie. I freaking love that movie. It's such a genius movie. I think this is H. Mallory. You might be autistic if you spent years with child development and autism as special interests, only to get diagnosed with autism and ADHD at almost 30 years old. Upside down smiley face.
It's,
Interesting.
you know, a lot of times people don't finally get their diagnosis until their children do.
Yeah. 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 Well,
Um,
and one thing that I think is kind of interesting is that I've definitely had special ed teachers that
oh
just
yeah,
like they vibed so well with with their students. Like and in retrospect, I think back and I'm like, that's because a lot of them were autistic.
yeah. You know, some of the teachers just really got it, and there's a reason they really got it.
Yeah, I remember one particular teacher who I'm not going to say his name because I he may or may not actually watch this channel, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Dad.
Yeah, and I think he
Um,
probably does too if he watches it.
uh, and he's definitely someone that I look at and I think, uh, we we got along so well all through school. This wasn't even a special ed teacher. Um, and he was really accommodating. And I think it's because there might have been a little bit of a touch of the tism going on there.
He really got you. He really did. Although, you know, there is this theory that there's a bell curve of social ability, and that people with autism tend to be on that lower tail. And there's this theory that the people who get along best with autistics are either other people from that lower tail
Yeah,
or the people from the highest tail, just not the ones in the middle.
interesting.
So Noreen Well says you might be autistic if you're at a busy craft fair with a friend, and while walking, you are trying to understand what your friend is saying, and they in turn are constantly pulling you toward them because you're about to walk into another person, a pole, a tree. I can either watch where I'm going or pay attention to what you're saying.
I can't do
Not
both.
both.
Yeah, Jess thinks, and I don't know if this is true. All right, Jess thinks that I might have a touch of ADHD. Because sometimes I just kind of wander off, just today. I was downstairs in the basement, and I had thrown the laundry in, and I started walking into our guest room in the basement, and Jess was at the top of the stairs. She was like, "Nathan, where are you going?" And I just kind of turned around. I was like, I'm going up the stairs." And she's like, "What? Why are you going in the guest room?" I'm like, I like,
I'm
so
wandering
yeah,
around.
yeah. I have
I'm
definitely
thinking about
wandered
something
into,
else, so I have no idea where I'm going.
yeah, I have definitely wandered into, um, I've wandered into like walls before, like straight up just the walls of buildings, because I just was not looking or paying attention.
I remember as a kid walking down the streets of Shepherdstown with my cousin Beth, and we'd be talking about something, and I'd walk smack into a parking meter. and it happened more than once.
Whoopsie.
I was just the right height for the parking meter to hit me right in the head.
Oh God, God. And you remember when I had to go to the hospital because I ran into a truck. I ran into like the and it was because I had grown
Yeah,
because I
that
used to
was
run underneath those trucks, but
just to be clear, that was just the emergency room. You were not admitted to the hospital.
isn't the emergency room a part of the hospital?
Not really.
All right. Up next we have Fairy Feather. Love that name. 1335. You might be autistic if the best friends you made in middle school were teachers and librarians. I would add, or the nurse.
Yeah.
I've definitely given this anecdote on
The
on the my channel before,
the
but
nurse told us, "Oh yes, Nathan's one of our frequent flyers."
and the thing is, like this was before we had an official chill time accommodation. So like when I would be about to have a meltdown in school or having issues, I would pick a scab and be like, teacher, I'm bleeding. Can I go to the nurse's office? And she was totally chill about it. She was great. She was
And
wonderful. I loved her.
when we finally got the accommodation that let you go take chill time whenever you felt like you needed it, not only did you need it less often once you could have it at will, but your scabs healed.
That is true. That is true. Yeah,
Yep.
when I was in middle school, I probably went to the nurses like a few times a week. I went to the nurse in high school when I had those accommodations. I went to the nurses twice the entire time I was in high school, all 4 years.
I was good friends with the librarian. I sometimes walked out of class and
Yeah.
went to the
I was definitely
library.
I was definitely friends with the librarian.
I had librarians who would uh, they'd stick up for me if I was going to be late for class because I couldn't really face it and I went to the library instead. They would write me a note saying that they had me doing something for them in the library and that's why I was late.
That's awesome.
It
That's
really
awesome.
was. It's great when you have people who are take care of you.
Yeah.
She wants the diction, says,
That is okay.
isn't that great?
That is such a good name. That is such a good name.
You might be autistic if you read books about small talk, trying to learn how to understand slash do it better.
Okay, well, let me give you my spiel about small talk. And this is actually how I explain it to my students. Remember, I
Your
teach a basic
communication
my
students.
communication students. Small talk is about people that don't know each other very well and don't care how the other is doing, lying about how they're doing in order to impress the other person. Because the thing is, most instances of small talk is, hello, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Thank you. Have a good day. And it's like, if you are actually not having a good day, you're not going to tell them. And if you do tell them, it's not going to change anything from them. Like they're probably just going to think, oh, well, that's weird. You're supposed to say that you're good. Um, so like you don't care if they're doing good and they're not going to be honest with you anyway. So why do we do it?
So a lot of it isn't how are you? How are you? A lot of it is hot enough for you.
Well, to be fair, that has become more of a political statement recently.
Oh, right. Okay, then how about this one? Um, let's see. What's the appropriate sports team to pull into this?
Yankees, I
How
think
about them Yankees?
I
And
think that's a
and
baseball team.
my answer is I have no clue. So let me give you a story related to that. My stepfather, so no genetic connection, and yet a lot of autism in that family. Um, he was telling me once. that the therapist told him that he really should make an effort to give a compliment to his wife at least once, better 2 or 3 times every day. And he thought that made a lot of sense. So he made sure to do that from then on. Think about some compliments and give them to my mother once, twice, maybe 3 times a day. Um, that's kind of like small talk, isn't it?
All right, and that is all of the ones that we have time for today. Thank you so much to everybody that submitted You Might Be Autistic If statements. As always, if we mispronounced anybody's name, please give us a comment down below, give us the phonetic pronunciation, and hopefully the next time we read it, we will try to make sure that we are actually pronouncing it correctly.
And I'm
Um,
just looking at your arm shaking there and thinking, you might be autistic if you shake for no particular reason.
yep, yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So that is today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any You Might Be Autistic gifts that you would like to submit to us, please leave a comment down below. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, check out some of our other stuff, and you will see us in the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.